practitioner. And for me, holistic is your mind, your emotions, your mental and your spiritual, including your physical. I think an awful lot of people would think, expect me to just talk purely about the physical aspects of recovering or recuperating from a heavy Christmas. So I would just like to start with a quote from a guy I really love, Ram Dass. He's a spiritual teacher. I'm sure most of you know who he is. And the quote I'd like to start with is, if you think you're enlightened, spend a week with your family. I don't think there's anything more truth about Christmas time than kind of like spending a week with your family to test you, to try you in many, many ways, because for your family can bring out the very, very best in you. And I say that somewhat sarcastically, okay? So let's start with, I suppose, the spiritual aspects of the Christmas part of it, of what Christmas is. So Christmas is the birth of Christ, I suppose. Not I suppose, it is the truth. It is the birth of Christ. So it's meant to be a very spiritual thing. And, you know, kind of like we forget that. We forget that in the consumerism of Christmas. And we forget that in the fact that we have to buy and we have to overconsume and we have to indulge an awful lot. So going back to kind of like Ram Dass, how we started the evening, if you think you're enlightened, spend a week with your family, and that will, I think that will raise an awful lot of questions about where you actually are in your life. So just from a spiritual point of view at surviving Christmas as such, I suppose you have to try and align yourself with people on the same page as you. So, you know, we're invited to things and we're expected to go to things, and there's a whole lot of obligations around kind of like Christmas that we're meant to do. We're meant to see people we don't see from one end of the year to another. And it kind of like, it always makes me wonder, like, we don't see them for a reason. Like, you know, we kind of like, we end up kind of like not kind of like hanging out with these people because they're not on the same page as us, they're not in the same vibration as us, they're not the same kind of friendship level. So but then Christmas comes around, and then kind of like, I remember at home Christmas would come around and kind of like we'd have to prepare for all the relatives that we can't stand and the friends and the neighbors that we really don't like, having to call in and put up with them, and kind of like it was difficult. So we're going to get invited to things that we probably don't want to go to. So the first thing I suppose that we have to do then is try and find out who's going. And if there's no one in alignment with you, if there's no one on the same page as you, well, then maybe give it a miss. Remember, you owe people nothing. You absolutely owe people nothing. And you have to put yourself first. And this is where an awful lot of spirituality and kind of like the whole essence of Christmas comes around, is that we have these obligations to turn up to things and we just don't like them. We don't like the people at them. So, you know, kind of like it extends into office parties as well, because like we spend an awful lot of time at office party and in the office, and then we have to go out with people and they end up getting drunk as hell and making a show of them and just annoying you. So, you know, kind of like, while there is an obligation to turn up, there's no obligation to stay there the whole night. So like, just always check who's going, put yourself first, always, always, always. Keep in alignment with the people that you resonate with. It's going to be a huge, huge, huge thing. Like family, like you can't get out of family gatherings at home. And I know kind of like families always kind of like bring up arguments. And I suppose just talking from home, there was a couple of things that we agreed never to speak to over the dinner table or the Christmas dinner table. One was politics, always guaranteed to be an argument. The other one was religion. And I suppose this year is going to be COVID stroke vaccinations. So I think kind of like maybe before even we sit down to dinner, I suppose we kind of like change the rules to include COVID. So we're not going to have those arguments. Like I know with my family, if you want to have an argument with a member of my family, just start talking to them. And that's kind of like a difficult one because kind of like we are an argumentative bunch. So I suppose boundaries, and that's something that's going to come up a lot in the next 40 minutes or so, is putting in place boundaries, keeping in place boundaries. And politics, never a good conversation unless you're actually in alignment with the person. Religion, always a difficult one. And then COVID, of course, okay? So again, it just brings up the idea is that you're actually seeing people you don't like. Because if you did, you'd see them more regularly and it wouldn't be a problem, because Christmas it is a difficult time for people. Like, you know, because it brings up an awful lot of emotions. It also brings up an awful lot of stress. And we'll get into that just now. but we feel the obligation to be forced into kind of like places and situations that we don't want to go to, and we end up hanging around, or not hanging around, but seeing the uncle, the creepy uncle we don't like, the kind of flamboyant auntie that we kind of like just always spent our years kind of avoiding, having to listen to terrible jokes, kind of like, leading off on terrible jokes about my family is kind of like, they remind me of Christmas lights. Half of them don't work and the other half are just very, very, very dull. So it's kind of like, it's a bit kind of difficult to kind of like tolerate. But however, we have to put up with terrible fashions, terrible Christmas jumpers, terrible jokes. So just moving on to that, I guess the important thing is, don't fall for the plastic Christmas, because Christmas should be a very much time of spiritual kind of journey, a kind of enlightenment, a time of reflection. But it's not. We get caught up in the consumerism. So, to quote Tyler Durden from Fight Club, is that we work jobs we hate to buy things we don't need to impress people we don't like. And I don't think there's any more relevant quote at Christmas than that, because we forget the essence of Christmas. We forget what Christmas is about. Okay, so boundaries are going to be one of the big things I'll talk about now in terms of the emotional, the mental, the physical well-being coming up over Christmas. But boundaries are key. So remember, you have the right to say no, and to repeat, you have owe nobody nothing. Okay, the only person you owe anything in this world to is yourself. So if you feel you're going to be put into situations with people you don't like, you have the right to say no. People are going to judge you anyway. That's just a fact. But however, in saying that, there are certain things we just can't get out of, and like Christmas dinner for Christmas parties, family gatherings, the help around there is planning is key. So kind of like, know what's coming, know what your triggers are, know what stresses you out, know who stresses you out, try to avoid them. Put time limits on things. One of the things I recommend is that you visit and you don't invite people, because if you visit people, you have then the opportunity to leave when you want, when things get a little bit kind of like too much for you. But if you're inviting people to your house, some people don't have any boundaries, and some people like just won't leave, and then you kind of like, you wake up the next morning and they're still on your couch. So kind of like, it's a difficult thing, because my recommendation is that you do the visiting. You call an Uber and you get into a taxi and you go there, so you can leave when you want. Okay, so other things is, breath work is key. And breath work comes with, one of the things, anybody who's ever come to see me in kind of personal or private consultation will know I really preach an awful lot about meditation, and meditation helps with breath. Okay, so taking a momentary pause to breathe and like realize that people are just being people. That's all they are. They're just being people. And yes, we have to suffer them sometimes, but learn how to breathe, learn how to control the situation. Okay, so coming back to the essence of Christmas is in the birth of Christ, and Christ was just an extraordinary energy, and he preached love. He really, really did, and that's what Christmas should be about. But again, as I said earlier, it is lost in consumerism. It is lost in spending. It is lost in kind of like, it's meant to be a time of giving, but giving isn't necessarily the most expensive gifts that you can actually give. So kind of like, budgets, the key to maintain, because why go into debt over something you actually don't want to be, to take part in? But every time you go to someone's house, if there's kids involved, yes, you have to bring presents. Of course, it feels like kind of people are going to kind of like, oh, it doesn't buy any presents. But there's lots of things you can give, kind of like, you can make gifts. You can obviously buy people health gifts, like support your local practitioners, that kind of thing. Suggest secret Santas, kind of like Chris Kindle things. So you're not buying everybody a Christmas present. You're just buying one, possibly two presents. So it's not becoming a huge expense. Like, it becomes an expensive thing because you're expected to go out so much, because you're hooking up with friends and family you haven't seen for so much. So you're going out, and that becomes a huge expense. And then presents on top of that becomes a huge expense. So it becomes a massive, massive expense. And that just leads to stress. And if we don't have enough stress in our life at this moment in time, what's going on in the world, we really don't need it, because of the price of everything, and the fact that we have to buy presents for everybody, and the fact that we have to turn up in places we don't want to be with presents we don't want to give to people. It just leads to stress and stress and stress and stress. So kind of like help people. It's not just about yourself. Help people to set realistic expectations, because I'm sure if you were going to a party and everybody's going to like, oh Jesus, there's more than just you in the group that's going, oh my God, I have to buy a present for this, him, her, him, and her. Maybe start a group or WhatsApp group to say kind of like, okay, look, these presents can get completely out of hand. So let's do the Secret Santa thing. So presents, and let's cap it at €100 or 100 Rand or 200 Rand. So it's not a huge expense to everybody. So set realistic expectations for everybody. I'm sure an awful lot of people are in the same boat as you. So if you're reaching out to them, you're immediately getting people on the same page as you are. So the party may not be just full of people just stressed out of their head because they didn't bring enough gifts, or the gifts that they got were nothing compared to the gifts that they got, and they're just feeling bad about themselves. So goals and key planning is key. It really, really, really is. But kind of like coming back to the essence of Christmas, it's all about time to reflect. It's all about the year that's been. And I don't know about you guys, but this year has truly flown in for me. It has actually, like, years get quicker and quicker and quicker, but this one has been ridiculous. I can't believe it's Christmas again. So it is a time to reflect. It is a time to actually, make judgment calls on where you went right and not necessarily always where you went wrong. So kind of like, okay, I started meditation. Okay, I started spiritual practice. Okay, I got my health in right. Okay, I saw a dietitian and nutritionist who helped me with my diet. These are all great positive things that you can say, okay, well, maybe 2021 wasn't that bad of a year. So time for reflection can be a very, very positive thing. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, oh, Jesus, just another year. I didn't give up alcohol. I didn't give up cigarettes. I didn't give up eating dairy and eating wheat. I gained another 20 kgs. It doesn't have to be all of that. It can be a time for good, positive reflection as well. Okay. So, after Christmas comes very, very quickly the New Year. And New Year is kind of like always one where people start making resolutions. And, kind of like most people fail. It's as simple as that. And there's reasons why people fail, because they make them unrealistic. Okay. So the expectations around yourself and your New Year resolution should be realistic. Like, kind of like if you want to lose 25 kgs in a week, the only way I can suggest you do that is to cut off a leg, because it's just not going to happen. So, make them easy, do them in steps, make a plan, make them simple, make them achievable, set your goals that are done in phases, that are not just kind of like one huge jump at an immediate stage, because you will fall. Like, most people who know me know that I love the gym and I go to the gym most days. But I generally try and take the first couple of weeks of January off, because you just can't get a machine. Like, it's just full of people who are going to get fit for the new year. And then by the third weekend, they've seen absolutely no progress, because they haven't given it any type of plan to it, or they haven't any time, or I haven't got any patience to it, or they haven't supplemented with a proper diet, or they just haven't planned it properly. Like, so make your steps, make your phases, make your goals doable. Do them in easy, small stages. Okay. Find a partner, find a friend that will help you with these things. So you got two people, so you become accountable. And one of the great things about kind of like when you set goals is, if you don't have anybody to be accountable to, it's very easy to lie to yourself, and that's not going to get you anywhere. So find someone who wants to have the same kind of like ideas or goals, or set the same new patterns for themselves as you do for yourself, as you do for you. So you kind of like, you have a friend, you have a partner who will help you, hold you accountable for these resolutions. Okay, you got to make them fun. Okay, so that's key. So if you decide that you're going to start the gym on the 1st of January and you're going to spend 2 hours every day in the gym, it's not going to work. It's not going to happen. If you decide that you're going to start a new eating regime, but you've no idea what you're doing, and you're just going to give up everything without actually having an idea about what you actually have to include or replace it with, nothing's going to happen. So you have to ask for help, kind of like about how your goals can be achievable, but you have to make them fun, because if they're fun, you're going to enjoy them. And if you enjoy them, you're more likely to kind of stick to them. Okay, so it becomes a mental attitude. And we'll go into the mental kind of like aspects of surviving Christmas just now. But your New Year's resolutions, they're generally, people start thinking about them just after Christmas. So kind of like the way you kind of set yourself up for the New Year's resolutions is by not falling off the boat completely and having this attitude of, oh, I'll start everything anew, fresh on January the 1st. I'll just start everything anew. So in the meantime, I'm just going to drink 2 bottles of whiskey and smoke 40 cigarettes and eat as much cack as I can for the next week, because it just makes it harder on that day one. So don't fall into that trap that this is the end of year, so let's just have one final big bash about being unhealthy mentally, spiritually, physically, and emotionally. Okay, it's your mental attitude, and it starts now. Okay, so that's kind of like the spiritual essence of Christmas is completely lost. It is on the birth of Christ, but it has just become a consumerism of gifts. So try and return to kind of like some type of spiritual practice in and around Christmas. And if that means a prayer, if that means meditation, if that just means breath work, please do it, okay? Because Christmas is an emotionally challenging time for an awful lot of people. It really, really, really is. And kind of like, over the course of a year, 12 months is a long time, the chances are somebody has passed away and you've had a great loss. So this will be the first Christmas without somebody, without a parent, without a brother, without a sibling, without, so it's kind of like they're very, 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 very difficult. It's also, you could have lost your job during the year. In my case, I can't travel over Christmas. Normally I'd be sitting at home, and this kind of like coming up to Christmas in Dublin. So, I can't travel at this time of year. So it can be emotionally, it's a time for kind of like, kind of getting over a loss. And loss is a difficult thing. So how do we get over that? Okay, we need to look at it. We need to be brave. We need to actually look at why and what. And, if we did lose somebody, would they want us to be just sad? Would they want to be crying at the dinner table? I don't think so. Let's be realistic about that. But however, that doesn't change the fact that you have emotions. And, it's a difficult time. So we'll get into kind of like problem solving emotion just now, because there's other things that have to be addressed first. We go home, or we kind of spend time with family. And again, family relationships that we've already mentioned can be very strained. Okay. There can be kind of like family, brother-in-law, sisters-in-laws that you really just don't like. There can be siblings that you just don't get on with. And you kind of like wonder, what the hell are you doing part of my family? How are me and you related? It's just kind of like, it's totally impossible. Like, we are so different. So family times, and we spend an awful lot of time at Christmas with family, and it can be really, really, really issues. Okay. Big issues. You might have a sister or a brother who has a completely different parenting method to yours, and they cause big issues, like kind of like, because they're always telling your child what to do, or they're always criticizing you over your parenting methods, and you're kind of like sitting there kind of going like, look at your kids, but you're a little bit more reserved, and you're kind of like a little bit more sensitive to their emotions, and say, well, your kid is an asshole, like, but however, they start telling you about what you're doing wrong as a parent and what you kind of like should be doing, and they're giving out to your kids while they stuff their kids with chocolates and Coca-Colas and stuff like that, and you're going, oh, Jesus Christ. So it can be difficult, for sure. It really, really, really can. It can be challenging because people assume that people, like, within the family you have roles. Like, take for example my situation. I was a chef for many, many years of my life. So in that, kind of like an awful lot of people would just assume that I would do all the cooking. To be quite honest, I was very happy with that, because it meant I didn't have to spend much time with my family. I was always in the kitchen. And then they'd turn around on Christmas Day and they'd say, oh, you have a break, you cook for a living and you cook all year round. And it's like, and then you look at the kitchen and it's just chaos, because there's 14 people in there trying to cook a turkey. You know, Jesus Christ. Like, holy shit. But so kind of like, don't be scared to challenge the family, your role in the family, because it may not be you. And why should you put up with it? Don't ever be scared to challenge that. For me, kind of like, kind of like for cooking, I just sometimes I get sick of it. Like, oh, go in and make us a sandwich. Make your own sandwich. Like, you don't need a chef to make a sandwich. That kind of thing. Like, no, I'm not doing that. Kind of, oh, will you make some breakfast? Like, what do you eat 364 days of the year, other than kind of like when I'm not around? Like, no, I'm not making you breakfast. Okay, but it's expected. So don't be scared to challenge those family roles. Okay, so things that help with the emotional thing is, like, it really is breath work. It's just taking a deep breath, looking at your family members and going, not today, sister, not today, brother. Okay, just breathing. You don't have to start the fight, because that can ruin Christmas. And trust me, I've been there. I've ruined Christmas because of arguments with people expecting me to do things. Okay, so just breathe. And I'm sure there must, we all have one or two family members that we actually get on with. Don't be scared to talk to them. Open up to them. Discuss things with them. Discuss problems with them, because maybe they have a better relationship with the person, the sibling, the family member, the kind of like the in-laws than you. So they can kind of drag them aside and say, listen, when you lay off asking so and so to constantly cook, or constantly expect to be cleaning, or constantly expecting to be doing this. So just talk to people. It really, 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 really helps. Okay. You need to stand your ground. You need to be strong, and that's being strong for you. Okay. And the most important thing around anything at any time of the year, and Christmas brings this out, is self-care. Self-care is so, so important. So it's very, very important that you actually stand your ground, and that is setting boundaries. Boundaries become a huge, huge thing. Be capable of saying no. Okay. I can't stress that enough. Be capable of saying no. Okay. So just going back to kind of dealing with family members, try and live in the now. Okay. I know it's a simple thing to say, but read the books all about it. There's many, many books. The Power of Now obviously being the most obvious one to quote. But please live in the now, breathe, set boundaries, be tactful about it, okay? Especially with families, because some families, like, I don't know about you guys, but some of my families are just real victim mentalities. And as soon as you open your mouth to them, they are just, Christmas is ruined, the New Year is ruined, everything's ruined, their life is ruined because you said no to them, or because you wouldn't do this to them, or because you wouldn't do that for them, or you wouldn't babysit, or you wouldn't let them speak to your children the way they want to speak to their children. Set boundaries. Okay. Really, really, really. Okay. If there is going to be things, say kind of like you have a brother-in-law or a sister-in-law coming that you don't actually, that is going to cause problems, it may not be a bad idea to discuss a debrief beforehand. Get in touch with them beforehand and say, listen, we're not having the same crap that we had last year. Okay. It's just not going to happen. So please kind of like think about planning again. Okay. So turn around to say to somebody, okay, listen, I don't like what you do or how you react to these type of things. So discuss, debrief beforehand. Okay. But don't overthink it because you're the one who'll suffer. Like if you're always overthinking, my sister is going to be this again, or my brother is going to be this again, or Uncle Mick is going to be this again, or Auntie Mary is going to be this again. Don't overthink it because they are going to be that again. Just try and avoid it. Try and take yourself out of the situation. I try and discuss with them before and say, listen, pal, if you do this again, if you're doing this again, if this is the way you're going to carry on again, this is the last Christmas we'll spend together. You have to put yourself first. And it's so important to have self-care. It really is. And self-care starts with boundaries. Okay. I know kind of like we can go home to family homes, or we end up at kind of like relatives' homes. And sometimes the houses are small, but always try and find a safe space, a private space for you to actually retreat into. Okay. Even if that is the bathroom. Kind of like just go there. Like people might think, oh my God, that guy never stops going to the toilet. My bowel is very healthy. Kind of like I have to go to the toilet maybe 4 or 5 times a week, or a week. So just find a private space where you can actually get away from people. Okay. Bring a book, bring a magazine or something, and just have private time. Okay. Kind of like, if something is coming up that's kind of like is going to be stressful, like the Christmas party, for example, know what the emotions that are kind of, recognize your emotions, recognize the triggers, recognize the emotions that are going to be brought up in you, that are going to rise in you. Okay. And try and plan ahead. Try and think, okay, the guy in accounts, oh Jesus Christ, if he starts with me again, okay, just understand that he is a trigger for you, so you have to try and avoid him. If the chick at reception is a trigger for you, just know that you're going to have to avoid them. Know what they are, recognize them. Okay. Plan the events. Okay. Give some time to sit in meditation, to know what's coming up, to actually realize what is going to arise in these circumstances, so you can avoid them. Okay. So kind of like, just when it comes to Christmas on an emotional level, okay, make sure you don't change your environment completely, that you don't lose contact with your friends, that you don't lose your eating habits, that you don't actually keep the routines that are normal to you. So if your routine is normal, that you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to meditate and then be in the gym for 6 o'clock, do your very, very, very best to keep that routine, because, it's helped your mental health, your emotional health all through the year. So, you have kind of like something to base it on, that the fact, oh my God, okay, if I give up my meditation practice in the morning, if I give up going to the gym in the morning, if I give up my, my healthy diet through the day, what do you expect? Like seriously, kind of like, you have to understand kind of like, these things are going to like a little bit strange for you. So kind of like stay close to your friends. So you're the people that are your tribe that have kind of helped you through the year. Don't give it all away for situations and people that you're not going to see from one end of the year to the other, just because you feel you have obligations to it. Okay. Stay close, because these people will bring out stress in you. Okay. And then just to kind of like repeat over and over and over again, stress is a reaction to a situation. So the best way to avoid a stressful situation is to avoid the situation. Set boundaries. Do not be scared to say no to people. Really, 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 and really, really, okay? Because, you know, it leads to anxiety, and anxiety is then just defined by trying to control the situation. So stress is caused by a situation, and anxiety is caused by trying to control the situation. Avoid the situation altogether as much as possible. Make excuses. Okay, so for your emotional health, make sure you sleep well. Don't become lazy. Okay, make sure you eat well. We'll get into the diet a little bit later, and make sure you continue with your exercises. And if one of your New Year's resolutions is to start exercising, well, then maybe it's not a bad thing to start exercising over Christmas. And if that's just getting out for a walk or going for a hike or just walking around the complex or the block or somewhere, just do it. It's crucial to emotional health. Exercise is crucial to mental health. Exercise is crucial for physical health. So please understand the value of exercise, okay? If things and situations can't be avoided and you get to somewhere, try and make excuses. Like, you know, one thing I always do, kind of like in situations that I volunteer to wash dishes, you know, because it takes you out of the situation. It kind of like, it leads you kind of to get away. And somebody, you'll always generally find the person who helps you doesn't want to be in that situation either. So then you'll probably find someone on the same page or on the same vibration as you. So kind of like clean up, do dishes, do the shopping, you know, goes record, you know, oh, you're out of what? Oh, let me go to the shop for you. Okay. Obviously don't drink and drive, but kind of like if the shop is around the corner, you go for the walk. Okay. If there's a garage on the corner, you go, oh, you want cigarettes? Sure. I'm totally anti-smoking, but for this time, I will go and I will buy you cigarettes myself. Don't even have to pay me. So I can get you out. Make excuses to get out of situations. Cleaning up is always a fantastic one, okay? So quickly moving on to kind of like the mental health, okay? Exercise is key, okay? It works off stress, okay? Really, really, really does. So even if you can't get to the gym or you kind of like, you want to join in the new year, you can walk, you can hike, you can swim, okay? You can do little things. You can clean your room, okay? You can clean the house. All those type of things takes your mind off things. It brings you into the now. It brings you into the present moment. And this is absolutely really, really key. Try to keep your life as normal as possible, and that will help with your mental health, no problem, okay? So you kind of like mental health is, it can be, again, stress around Christmas and the whole idea of the budget, because Christmas is bloody expensive. You're expected to buy presents for people you don't like, kids you don't see. Okay, obviously you have your own children, you have to buy presents, but kind of like other people's kids that you don't really like, you have to buy them presents because it's expected of you. You go out a hell of a lot more over Christmas, so kind of like you're going to be spending an awful lot more in bars and restaurants. So budgets, you know, kind of like financial budget is a huge thing for stress. So planning again is key. Okay, try and stick within your budget plan. So set them out. Okay. Mental health, avoid the people you don't like. I can't stress that enough. I really, really can't. I can't stress kind of like Christmas is, okay, I just got a thing that we got 10 minutes left. So I kind of, I suppose that kind of like, we want to get into the physical things about kind of like Christmas is about kind of like how to get over hangovers. Okay. And what is good for a hangover? I suppose drinking heavily is always going to give you a good hangover. But kind of like when it comes to alcohol consumption, okay, there's a couple of rules, okay. First thing is, okay, I suppose don't mix your drinks, okay. That, you know, it's kind of difficult because I'm Irish, okay, and one of the kind of like things I was always shocked about South African drinking culture is the amount of shooters you do. It's actually extraordinary. It's like, it's really, really is. Like, Irish people are renowned for drinking a lot, but South Africans take the biscuit. Like, I've never seen a culture drink as much as my life. So kind of like try and not to mix your drinks as much as possible. Okay, beer and wine is going to give you a killer of a hangover. Okay, so if you can kind of like just stick to beer or stick to wine. Okay, finish with hard drinks, whiskeys. Don't start with whiskey and vodka and gin and then go on to beer. That's not a good recommendation. Okay, start the other way around. Start with beer. Okay, start slowly. Okay, The reason why we get hangovers is because of it's generally because of liver function. Okay, our liver can generally process 1 unit of alcohol an hour. Okay, so a unit of alcohol is generally a bottle of beer or a glass of wine or a shot of alcohol. Okay, um so kind of like to sip a bottle of beer for an hour is kind of difficult. Like, it really, really is. So my recommendation on that is make sure you drink half a liter of water per 2 drinks. Okay, half a liter of water per 2 drinks. Stop drinking an hour before you go to bed. Okay, drink plenty and plenty and plenty of water. Okay, just I made some notes on alcohol and hangovers. Okay, liver alcohol is caused generally by the liver. Okay, and it's not only alcohol but sugary drinks. So when you're mixing Coca-Cola with your brandies, that adds to it. Okay, so maybe whiskey and water, vodka on the rocks is a good thing. Smoking is never recommended because kind of like what it does to the liver. Okay, but what happens is we get hangovers because your immune system is depleted. Okay, so our immune system gets depleted. Okay, so other recommendations are trying to avoid hangovers. Don't ever drink in an empty stomach. Okay, that's a ridiculous idea. So make sure you eat well and try and continue to eat as you're drinking. That's going to help with your kind of like alcohol consumption or using it in the body. Okay, stop drinking an hour before you go to bed and don't do rounds. Okay, try and pace yourself. I know when I go home to Dublin, I go out and there's 10, 12 people and we start going into rounds. You're getting 10, 12 drinks at a time. So then you kind of like don't want to think, oh, Jesus, well, I've just paid for a round. I better drink as fast as I can so I get your round, your round, your round. And you end up having 10 or 12 drinks. And what do you expect? Of course, you're going to have a ridiculous hangover, okay? So kind of like the cures for hangover is to stay hydrated, to drink plenty and plenty and plenty of water, get things like liver essentials, okay? It was really, really, really help. Make sure your bowels are working. So start the bowel detox today, okay? Really and truly today. Get lots and lots of fiber into you. Okay, good quality fiber like what's it called, psyllium huts. Okay, maybe plan a day off after you know you're going to have a heavy drinking so you can get plenty of sleep. Okay, but kind of like one of the kind of like old wives' tales about kind of like curing a hangover is greasy foods. So a good Irish breakfast of bacon, sausages, eggs, things like that, greasy food does help a little. Okay, really and truly. But don't ever fall for that hair of a dog trick and decide to get up the next morning with a hangover and have another drink because it doesn't work. Trust me. Really, really, really. So boost your immune system. Okay. And that's really, really important. Vitamin C, vitamin D. Okay. Lots and lots of vitamin C through the course of Christmas. Vitamin D, sunshine, lots and lots of sunshine. Okay. Supported with zinc supplements. Okay. Broccoli and spinach juices. Okay. Big, big, big help. Okay. But obviously, you're not going to have them first thing in the morning with a hangover. So if you're going to go out on a heavy night drinking, have a broccoli and spinach juice to start with, okay, before you leave. Have lots of garlic, lots of ginger, almonds or any nuts and seeds because they're very high in vitamin E content and that will help boost your immune system. Green tea is a fantastic thing to drink the next day, okay? Lots of green tea, okay? The herbs that help to boost your immune system be ashwagandha, olive leaf extract, echinacea, elderberry, okay? If you're taking echinacea and you want to boost your immune system, don't do the 6 or 7 drops in a glass of water. Just take the bottle and drink the whole thing. It's a very, very fast-acting thing and your body adapts to it very, very quickly. So just kind of like drink lots of it in one go, like 25 mils, drink it in one go, okay? Don't do what is recommendation because herbs work, but the people supplying herbs are generally pharmaceutical companies and they don't want you to know herbs work. Echinacea is fantastic. Okay, get fresh air, lots and lots and lots of fresh air. Go for walks, go for swim, get into the sun. Okay. So the foods over Christmas, we're not going to be able to avoid all the shit, crappy foods that we eat, okay? So try and stick to your normal diet. If you know that you're allergic to wheat and dairy, please don't just hammer them into you in terms of kind of like because it's Christmas, because you think you should and because you're obliged. If you have problems with your diet and you're going to someone's house, maybe let them know beforehand, okay? That listen, I'm allergic to wheat, I'm allergic to dairy, okay? I'm allergic to eggs. Don't pitch up and then kind of like think, oh, this person's a picky eater, they're not going to eat this thing. You are responsible for yourself. So make sure that you kind of letting people know, because if you arrive at someone's house and they just provide you with a lasagna, you're going to feel the obligation to eat it, and then you're going to suffer for 2 or 3 days. So kind of like the foods to avoid as much as possible the processed foods, of course. Like nothing's changing over Christmas, but however, the probably the propensity to eat them has increased because people will give them to you or you're out at a restaurant. So avoid the fried food, the processed foods, the artificial flavorings, the artificial colorings, the artificial sweeteners, the shelf life extenders. Avoid all of those type of things. Include healthy fats into your diet. Eat lots of avocados over Christmas. Include maybe a teaspoon of coconut oil in your diet every Christmas. Okay, get apple cider vinegar into you. It will help to break down the kind of the crap foods that we'll be more prone to having to eat over Christmas. Okay, look at a course of probiotics. It'll be really, 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 really beneficial. Okay, a quick tip. Pineapple contains an enzyme called bromelain, which is fantastic for breaking down meat. So if we're going to be at a braai after braai after braai after braai after Christmas, make sure maybe in the morning time that you have a big glass of pineapple juice or a pineapple smoothie. It will really go a long way to helping with the digest an awful lot of meat. Okay, take mint, basil, fennel, all of those type of things in your diet. Eat lots and lots and lots of them. They help with your digestion. They're just natural digestive enzymes. Okay, just a drink for you to have, okay, every single day. 1 liter of apple cider vinegar, of ginger, of lemon, of mint, of cucumber, and then honey is optional to a taste. But please make sure you buy local, real, non-irradiated, non-processed honey, okay? Just get 1 liter of those, a tablespoon of vinegar, a couple of slices of lemon, a couple of slices of ginger, a few pieces of cucumber, a little bit of mint, okay, and drink 1 liter of that every single day, okay? 2 liters is even better, okay? So the reasons why we get hangovers and we feel shit after kind of like eating such nasty foods is because they cause an awful lot of mucus. And, the big culprits for mucus in terms of food are dairy, wheat, coffee, fried processed foods, red meat, sugar, red wine. And these are things that we kind of come to expect to eat over Christmas. So kind of like if we are going to kind of like eat them, make sure that you follow them up with kind of like things that you're cooking with lots of onions, lots of garlic, lots of ginger, lots of parsley, lots of cayenne pepper, lots of turmeric, and rose hip tea if you can find it. It starts to break down mucus an awful lot. Because at the end of the day, we are just energy, and energy is a physical, emotional, and mental and spiritual thing. So we have to keep our energy flowing, okay? So because, energy comes from kidneys, and I'd love to get into talking kidneys now, but we can't. But kidneys to me are one of the most important organs of the body. So support your kidneys over Christmas. Watch the stimulants that you take. Drink lots of water. Stay hydrated. Live your passion. Don't live in fear, okay? And these are all the things that are always associated with kidneys, okay? So in the new year, I will do a class just purely on kidney health. But in the meantime, kind of like the other things I want to touch on very, very quickly because I have a minute left is indigestion caused by excessive eating, caused by foods that don't agree with us. And the number one over-the-counter medicine is antacid, Rennie and Gaviscon and those sort of things. But get yourself bicarb. 1 or 2 teaspoons of bicarb every single day will really, 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 really help, okay? So remember, breathing, kind of like you're under no obligation to kind of like go anywhere. Say no to people. Look after yourself. Put yourself first. Okay. Always, always, always live your life as you've done through the year, and always trying to like think of you. Be responsible for you. Remember what Christmas is. It is a very spiritual time. It was the birth of the one true Christ, the one who brought love into this world and spoke about love. And love starts with you. Don't ever, ever, ever forget that. So I'll finish up very quickly and say a very, very, very happy Christmas to everybody, and I'll see everybody in the new year. Let's hope. Okay, so enjoy Christmas, have lots of fun, and look after yourselves. Goodbye, everybody.